Hi everyone, it's Katrina. The Barracuda. What's the craziest thing you've seen an animal do? A woman was recently impaled by a barracuda in Florida. It's not something that happens every day, not even in Florida. In October 2011, Carrie Larson and her boyfriend Michael went on an excursion out north of the Big Pine, the island the couple lived on at the time. It was an excursion that they had taken a million times before. Michael was the first one to see the barracuda. It was a fair distance away, but coming at them fast. Michael estimated the creature was moving at about 50 miles per hour, so fast it practically skipped across the surface. Then, just as it neared their kayak, it exploded out of the water as if Poseidon himself had thrown it. The barracuda slammed into Carrie with such force, it nearly tossed her from the vessel. You wouldn't think being hit by a fish would be that bad, but in this case, it definitely was. The barracuda made its escape and Carrie hit the deck. When Michael checked the wound, he was shocked to find a giant hole in her side. Michael said when he tried to cover the wound, he felt her lung trying to squeeze out between his fingers like an inflating balloon. Michael didn't think that Carrie was going to make it. Michael immediately called 911 and said he wouldn't be able to get to shore because he was holding Carrie's lung in her body with one hand. Michael had to speak with local towboat owner Kevin Freestone to guide Kevin to their location in the Florida backwaters. It was a tense situation that nearly cost Carrie her life, but somehow she miraculously survived. Everyone needs someone in their life like Michael. The Bear and the Fisherman. In Japan, during the spring of 2023, a fisherman went on an expedition and never returned. On a Monday morning, 54-year-old Toshihiro Nishikawa was dropped off at his favorite fishing location by a lake. He was never seen alive again. Shortly after he was dropped off, the very same boat operator who dropped him at the remote location spotted something that made his heart stop. He saw an enormous bear wandering near the edge of the lake with a fishing boot dangling from its mouth. The boat operator tried to call Nishikawa, fearing the worst. When Nishikawa didn't answer, the boat operator phoned the police. A manhunt was launched to hopefully find the fisherman and also track down the bear with the fishing boot. The bear was shot later that same evening. Around the same time the bear was killed, the badly damaged remains of a human head were discovered at the last known whereabouts of the fisherman. Nobody knows exactly what happened, though the evidence is fairly self-explanatory. It's believed the bear came across the fisherman and decapitated him. This was in an area known to be heavily populated by Japanese Usuri brown bears, which can grow to nearly 8 feet tall and over 550 pounds. And now, on a lighter note, it's shout-out time! I want to give a big thank you to Ian Donovan and Jep2069 for supporting this channel. We wouldn't be here without you. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe to join the Origins Explained family. The double attack. It was a hot afternoon in July 2023 when Peggy Jones became the victim of a bizarre series of unfortunate events. Peggy was finishing up some yard work on her investment property in Texas when a hawk dropped a snake on her from above. Peggy never saw it coming. From out of nowhere, the snake landed on her arm. It immediately wound itself around her limb and started striking her. As if the snake attack wasn't bad enough, the hawk then came back for the meal that slipped through its talons. This situation went from 0 to 200 in about 3 seconds. First, Peggy was doing lawn work. Then she was struggling to not be bitten to death by a snake. While the snake bit her mercilessly, the hawk flew by and stabbed her with its claws. It almost seemed like it was a coordinated assault, though in reality the hawk was just trying to get the snake back, and the snake was all hyped up trying not to get eaten. Luckily for Peggy, the hawk managed to rip the snake off her arm and fly away with it. She was left soaking in blood. Peggy quickly raced to the emergency room where doctors didn't know if she had been filled with venom or not. Everything happened so quickly that she didn't even know what kind of snake bit her. Doctors watched her blood pressure until they were certain she wasn't going to die. Peggy has since made a full recovery. The dingo. You knew something from Australia was coming. In Australia, a dingo nearly ate a little girl in spring 2023. She was paddling in a shallow lagoon minding her own business, and the dingo attacked the girl, held her underwater, and tried to eat her head. The incident went down on April 3rd on Fraser Island. The young girl was with her family, a group of tourists on the east side of the island. She was splashing around and having fun when suddenly the dingo pounced out of nowhere. It grabbed her and held the girl under the water as if to purposely drown her. It also tried to take a few bites out of her skull. Luckily for the young girl, her family witnessed the attack and were able to quickly get the dingo off. The wild dog ran off into the bush, and the girl was taken to a hospital where she was treated for 3 puncture wounds. It wasn't serious damage, but was a frightening experience for the family. About 2 weeks later, a second dingo attack happened in Western Australia, this time with the dingo pouncing on a toddler. The toddler suffered non-threatening injuries and was saved by his mother. These attacks go to show that if you happen to be in the Australian wilderness with a baby or a young child, you really do need to watch out for dingoes. While they typically hunt rabbits and kangaroos, dingoes have a bizarre hunger for human young. The Piranha Swarm. At a Brazilian resort in early May 2023, a swarm of piranhas left 8 people injured in an unprecedented attack. The school of savage fish swam into a stream where some vacation-goers were relaxing in the cool water. The bathers were not prepared for the razor-sharp teeth of some of Brazil's most dangerous creatures. The fish attacked legs and feet, driving the tourists from the water in a surge of blood and foam. This went down in the state of Amazonas, exactly where you would expect a piranha attack to happen. Experts believe the attack was likely a case of mistaken identity because of all the restaurants in the area and the tourists who dumped their food into the stream. The fish were after the floating leftovers. It's just that all the tourists' legs and delectable toes got in their way. Steve Husky from Western Kentucky University said piranhas don't typically attack humans unprovoked. They were most likely acclimated to free food and thought human feet were on the menu. The attack was something known as a collective feeding frenzy. It's something that can occur when a large number of fish end up in a small area, or if they've been starving for a long time. Feeding frenzies are the only time piranhas will attack big animals. Most of the time, piranhas are totally harmless. In fact, there are some species of piranha in the jungle that only eat fruit and insects. The albino cobra. Spring 2023 was a very busy time for animal encounters. Dingoes hunted kids in Australia and piranhas attacked tourists in Brazil. Meanwhile, in India, an extremely rare and highly deadly cobra slithered into somebody's house during a rainstorm. In Tamil Nadu state, which is in southern India, neighbors witnessed the serpent slither into a passageway beside the house. They phoned experts with the Wildlife and Nature Conservation Trust, who arrived to capture the snake. Luckily, they got to it before the slippery reptile could do damage. It was a 5-foot-long Indian cobra, also known as the spectacled cobra. It's considered one of the top 4 most dangerous snake species in the country. The cobra also happened to be an albino snake. It was pure white with demonic red eyes, a very rare condition which usually results in total blindness. Albino snakes are susceptible to sunburns and often can't see anything. In the wild, many animals with albinism don't survive very long, but that doesn't make them any less dangerous. The Indian cobra's venom can cause paralysis and death if its bite isn't treated pretty much immediately. Snake bites kill thousands of people in India every year. India accounts for almost 80% of global snake bite deaths. According to the World Health Organization, there are as many as 138,000 snakebite deaths each year in India, with many caused by the Indian cobra. In this case, the cobra was taken far away from the house and released into the wild. Rampaging Otter. In Florida, a man was bitten 41 times by a rabid animal. It wasn't a snake, it wasn't a crocodile, and it wasn't a mangy mutt. 74-year-old Joseph Scaglione was bitten nearly 50 times by an angry otter. Otters might seem cute and cuddly, especially seen floating on little kelp rafts off the coast. But otters can also be savage maniacs. In September 2023, Joseph went down to his local pond to feed the birds. It was a peaceful activity, something Joseph typically does twice a day. As he threw bread to the ducks behind his house, the otter emerged like a wild beast. It bit him multiple times, ultimately latching on to his right hand. Joseph desperately tried to free himself, but the otter's jaws were locked like an angry pit bull. It was only after about 5 minutes that the otter finally loosened its grip, allowing Joseph to fling it into a bush. Then he ran desperately for his house, covered in his own blood. Joseph made it to the Jupiter Medical Center emergency room, where he had to receive a whopping 120 rabies vaccine shots. He had to get 3 or 4 injections at the site of each puncture wound, an experience almost worse than the attack itself, but the shots were necessary to stop him from catching rabies. Without the shots, the otter bites could have caused a fatal viral infection that attacked his nervous system. The shark attack. One of the deadliest animal encounters of 2023 happened off the coast of a South Australian beach. Simon Bacanello, a 46-year-old teacher in the prime of his life, was surfing on May 14th when he suddenly vanished. There were dozens of surfers in the water at the time, so it wasn't as if he was the only person out there. Bystander Jaden Miller was unfortunate enough to witness the attack. Jaden told reporters that the shark attacked Simon at least 3 times. The beast snatched Simon in its jaws, released him, then went back twice more. After the 3rd attack, Simon was nowhere to be seen. The day after the attack, police in South Australia said the victim was almost certainly dead. While emergency services failed to find his corpse, they did find shredded pieces of a wetsuit and chunks of polystyrene from his surfboard. It's likely that Simon's body will never be found. Savage raccoons. Animal attacks can happen anywhere, even in a big city like Vancouver. In August 2023, a pair of Vancouver residents and their pets came under siege by a group of terrifying raccoons. The first incident happened late on a Thursday night. Emma Yendel and a friend were walking their dogs along a busy street when suddenly raccoons leaped out from the nearby bushes. Emma suffered lacerations that were so deep she had to go to the hospital and get stitches. Her dog was also cut badly in the attack, but did survive. Several hours later, at about 1:30 a.m., Jake Moss was wounded at the exact same intersection by the same 3 raccoons. His attack was significantly worse, with his dog being almost fatally wounded. Jake's little Shih Tzu, Pingu, lost an eyeball in the vicious attack. Emma said she's so traumatized by the attack that she doesn't want to walk down that block anymore. She's lived in the neighborhood for 20 years and has never seen anything like this happen before. In the case of Jake's attack, it was as if the creatures were out for blood. He kept throwing the animals away, assuming they would stop. Instead, they kept up the assault from all angles. His poor dog suffered the worst of it and now has only one eye. It's a little-known fact that Vancouver has a serious raccoon problem. Thus far, in 2023, the city has already received over 527 complaints about raccoons, with over 1,000 being reported in 2022. Surviving the Amazon. Jonathan Acosta went on a hunting trip with 4 friends in the northern Bautis region of Bolivia in early January 2023. The hunting trip wasn't supposed to be very long, so Acosta didn't have much in the way of supplies. He had a shotgun with a single cartridge and the clothes on his back when he wandered away from the rest of the group. The 30-year-old man wandered so far that he got lost and disoriented. What followed was one of the worst experiences of his life. His fun hunting trip turned into 31 days alone and scared in the Amazon jungle. Acosta had no food. He survived by eating insects and worms. The only water he was able to drink was from rain that he collected in his boots. He also occasionally managed to harvest gargatias fruit, though that was a rarity. Food and water were not his greatest concerns while struggling to survive in the jungle. The worst part was that he constantly encountered wild animals. According to what Acosta told reporters after his harrowing journey, he encountered jaguars, anteaters, and alligators. He was forced to use his only shotgun cartridge when he was attacked by a squadron of peccaries. Peccaries are kind of like pigs, only way more vicious and totally unafraid of humans. Acosta didn't sleep for almost a full week as he hunkered down in the dark and dreary jungle clutching his shotgun, afraid something was going to eat him. He was finally discovered after 31 long days thanks to the search party that never gave up hope. He had a dislocated ankle and was 37 pounds lighter. According to Acosta's family, he has decided to give up hunting altogether. Instead, he is going to focus on learning to play the guitar. Do you think you have what it takes to survive in the jungle and fight off wild animals? Thanks for watching! Be sure to stay tuned for extra content you might have missed. Giant squid. Mostly creatures of legend, giant squids are mentioned in many old mariners' tales of dangers at sea, but they are rarely seen and live deep in the depths of the ocean. However, in 2003, it seemed that a team of French sailors had come face to face with the legendary Kraken itself. They were participating in the Jules Verne Trophy, a sailing race around the world. Several hours into their journey on that day, off the coast of the Portuguese island of Madeira, they discovered that a giant squid had clamped onto their hull. Uncertain at first what was interfering with their steering, one of the sailors spotted a tentacle through a porthole. He described it as thicker than his leg and pulling incredibly hard. They then found that another 2 tentacles were blocking the rudder, which would explain why they had difficulty navigating. Giant squid can grow to up to 60 feet long and weigh up to 1 ton. This one was estimated to be about 26 feet long. Without anything on board to help fend it off, they had no choice but to stop the boat, and luckily for them, it released its grip. Jellyfish. Nomura's jellyfish is a gigantic jellyfish that is big enough to cause some serious damage. They can grow up to 6 feet in diameter and weigh around 400 pounds. And even though this isn't the biggest jellyfish in the world, that title belongs to the lion's mane jellyfish, Nomura's jellyfish caused a lot of issues for one Japanese fishing vessel in 2009. The boat weighed 10 tons, but it was no match for the large catch of Nomura jellyfish that they had in their nets and were attempting to bring aboard. The 3-man crew was sailing around Chiba, Japan when they encountered a slew of the jellyfish in their vicinity. The sheer weight of them put together tore apart their net and capsized the boat entirely. The crew was tossed into the ocean as the creatures caused the 10-ton fishing trawler to sink. Thankfully, however, there was another ship nearby which was able to come and rescue them. Fishermen are keeping an eye out for this big jellyfish because their numbers are rapidly increasing. Crocodile. Everybody knows that crocodiles are pretty dangerous creatures. About 1,000 people die due to crocodile attacks per year, many more than sharks. And there have even been reports of some crocodiles jumping up into boats looking for a snack. But one of the worst instances of a crocodile attack happened in Leaders Creek, located in Australia. 2 elderly friends were cruising the river searching for crabs when they encountered a giant crocodile that was looking for trouble. The men were trying to bring their crab pots on board when the crocodile struck their little boat, about 10.5 feet long, causing it to capsize. 75-year-old Noel Ramage is believed to have drowned, leaving 72-year-old Ray McCumber to try to escape. He was able to get to the mangroves, but more and more of them started coming. He then spent the next few hours trying to survive the choppy, croc-infested waters. He was able to use spanners and spark plugs as the animals came towards him. Thankfully, he was able to stay away from them long enough for help to arrive, which took him away to safety. Many people are calling for more education in Australia to warn people about using small boats in the Northern Territory. You need to be extremely cautious if you're going to take out a small, unstable tinny. Researchers say that attacks like this are extremely unusual and the men may have panicked, causing them to capsize. Regardless, there are now signs warning people that the smaller the boat, the riskier the experience. No kayaking here. And now for number 7. But first, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And I want to give a quick shout out to Wolfie Y and Dane Evans for supporting this channel. Thanks, guys! Stingray. Even if there have been a few stingray attacks in the past, in particular Steve Irwin died from a stingray, you wouldn't expect for one to occur outside of the water. But you should always expect the unexpected. In 2006, a stingray jumped straight out of the water and into a Florida man's boat, impaling him through the chest. In fact, the creature even left its barb inside of him. James Bertakis was 81 years old when this happened, and it's astounding that he survived. He was out sailing with his granddaughter and one of her friends, who were able to take the boat back to their house on the shore. Crazily enough, Bertakis was conscious the whole way through. Luckily, the barb hadn't reached his heart, and he was able to stay awake until they got help. This is a super freak accident of very bad timing. Bertakis went through surgery to remove the barb that was hidden inside of his body. His lung had collapsed, and he had a bad wound, but he made it through. Usually, stingrays are friendly creatures. They will jump out of the water every so often, and it probably got quite the shock too. It probably didn't want to attack on purpose. Jumping shark. In 2020, a family was sailing along the Tasmanian coast when a shark jumped out of the water and grabbed their 10-year-old child, dragging him into the water. Thankfully, the child is doing okay, but it's terrifying to think that this could actually happen. We all know that Australia is notorious for its extreme wildlife it is home to: crocodiles tipping boats, kangaroos boxing, venomous spider bites, and now add sharks jumping and pulling people into the water on that list. How did this happen? The father of the boy who got dragged into the water says that the two of them were just out on the coast fishing. The shark seemed to come as if out of nowhere. It just jumped right out of the water, grabbed the boy, and took him under, inflicting some damage along the way. Thankfully, the boy's father decided to jump in the water after his son, which scared the shark away. Or the boy didn't taste so good, and it swam off. The child was wearing some sort of floaty, but he did get some battle marks. Namely, he got cuts on his arm, head, and chest. There have actually been a number of shark attacks over the past few months in Australia. One fisher died while he was spearfishing, another was filming a documentary and got injured. There have been over 11 attacks in this year alone. Hopefully they start to slow down because these guys are getting a little scary. Walrus. In 2019, a huge walrus actually sunk a ship that belonged to the Russian Navy. You might expect the waters of the Arctic to be cool, calm waters with little activity, and a lot of the time, that's true. But if you get in a walrus's way, especially if they're trying to protect their young, then you will have to face the consequences. These seemingly slow and lazy creatures can grow up to 11.5 feet long and weigh around 1.5 tons. Walruses are typically gentle giants. They communicate with funny snorts and seem to enjoy themselves. But if it's time to mate, or if they're guarding their young, then it's a different story. That's what happened when the Russian vessel Altai got too close. They were sailing around Cape Geller around Wilczek Island when they came upon a group of walruses made up of a mother and her small children. Then trouble struck. The walrus supposedly attacked the boat, and although the military didn't detail it in their official statement, the Russian Geographical Society confirmed that the boat didn't make it. Thankfully, the captain of the ship took swift action and made sure everyone got into the lifeboat safely. Bull sharks. While people are mostly terrified by the great white, bull sharks are actually the ones you should be keeping an eye out for. Even though they're not quite as big as other more infamous sharks, they are way more aggressive, and they tend to hang out in places that we also like, and they're full of surprises. For one thing, they can swim in both saltwater and freshwater, and they've been found as far inland as Illinois. Would you ever expect to see a shark in an Illinois river? Didn't think so. Given their aggression, there are a number of instances where bull sharks have gone after boats. One Florida man took drone footage of his friend's sea vessel getting repeatedly barraged by this hostile beast. The fisherman had initially heard from a friend that there were some cobia to fish in the area, so he was excited to go out into the sea. But then, the bull shark started going nuts on this man's boat. The shark went after not only the outer body of the vessel, but it even tried to attack the motors. All in all, this shark struck at the boat a grand total of 7 times. While this is terrifying behavior, it's not uncommon for bull sharks. There's even a report of bull sharks jumping up into the hull of passing ships. The moral of the story is this: don't mess with bull sharks. They are straight up looking for a fight. Hippos. While not what you traditionally thought of as sea monsters, hippos hang out in the water and they are huge. They are some of the most aggressive animals in the world, and when you consider just how big they can get, it's no wonder that sailors are keeping their eyes peeled for an attack. They can end up weighing somewhere around 6,000 pounds. Hippos are incredibly concerned about maintaining their territorial dominance, especially when it comes to protecting their young. For instance, one notorious incident occurred in 2014 in the Nigerian city of Niamey, Niger's capital. Students there often take a boat across the Niger River in order to get to school. However, the boat got dangerously close into a hippo's territory and it charged the boat, killing 13 people, most of them school children. Fishermen are terrorized by hippos on a daily basis, and while they might look chubby and slow, in the water they are actually quite fast. Another hippo in the Chobe River in Botswana almost spelled bad news for some passing tourists. Apparently, this boat was cramping the hippo's space, and it started to charge at the boat with terrifying speed. In fact, hippos can charge at around 14 miles per hour on land. The YouTuber who uploaded this video claims that the hippo was far closer to the boat than the video makes clear. Don't ever make a hippo angry, and be sure to give them their space. Orcas. Orcas, or as they're more threateningly referred to, killer whales, are highly intelligent and powerful predators. They seem to also be super interested in what humans are up to, but they are very large, so people often err and think of orcas as whales. But they're definitely not slow behemoths. Even though they can weigh up to 6 tons and grow up to 32 feet long, they really gain some speed and momentum. And when you combine size and speed, you've got yourself a deadly combo. Orcas are notorious for going after fishermen's nets and earning themselves an easy meal. Since they are so clever, they have figured out exactly how to get to fishing vessels. They know exactly what they're doing. They observe that a bunch of fish are congregated in one net, and they think to themselves, hey, doesn't this seem like a good opportunity to stock up? They are also smart enough to wait all day until fishing nets are full and then strike. Off the Alaskan coast, orcas have been becoming a bigger and bigger problem over the years. Fishermen and orcas had a peaceful coexistence for a long time, but now the orcas are chasing them down. The National Post published a story titled, "Gangs of Aggressive Killer Whales Are Shaking Down Alaska Fishing Boats," as if they were some sort of version of the Italian mob. At one point, boats tried to use an electronic noisemaker to ward them off, but the orcas got used to them, and like one fisherman said, it became a dinner bell. As soon as an orca spots a fishing boat with halibut, for example, the whole pod will come and harass and follow the boat for miles. Sperm whales are also starting to harass fishermen and steal fish from their lines and follow them, making the time and fuel needed to outrun them not worth the trip. The Essex. Speaking of sperm whales, they have the biggest brains of anything on the planet. What's more, they are gigantic creatures. They can grow almost 60 feet long, and the heaviest ones weigh around 45 tons. Given their size, it makes sense that they'd be capable of taking down large ships. But no sea monster encounter is more notorious than the time that the whaler ship Essex was taken down by a sperm whale in 1820. This incident eventually became the inspiration for Moby Dick. Sailing on the Essex was not a fun time. Captain George Pollard Jr. was just 29 years old when the Essex went down. He told his story soon after he was rescued. Just 2 days after departing on its journey, which was supposed to last 2 years, it was hit by a storm, destroying the sail. They couldn't find places to fish, the boat was leaking, they ran out of food, and the crew began to go mad, eventually turning to cannibalism. The few whales they did manage to hunt would drag them for miles and miles and leave them in the middle of nowhere. One day, the crew members spotted something in the distance, a big sperm whale heading towards them. It slammed headfirst into the ship with such an appalling and tremendous jar as nearly threw us all on our faces. Then it swam under the boat and began thrashing about, causing water to flood into the ship. The crew escaped onto their smaller boats, and then a legendary fight ensued. The Essex sunk, and the men were basically stranded in the middle of the ocean. No one knows why the whale was so eager to fight. It took 3 months for the remaining crew to be saved. Herman Melville was greatly inspired by this story and met the captain, who by then was a nobody. But Melville said that to him, it was the most impressive man he had ever encountered.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for extra content you might have missed.
Sharks. World War II was not a battle of man versus man alone. In fact, men aboard the USS Indianapolis also faced the worst shark attack in history. When a Japanese submarine sunk the Indianapolis, 900 men survived the fall into the water. The sound of explosions, splashing, injuries, and overall panic drew sharks in from afar. For days upon days, the sharks fed until only 317 men remained. Researchers estimate a couple dozen to 150 men died from the shark attacks, and not from their injuries. There are several documentaries about this terrifying event, where the men floated holding on to each other, not knowing who the sharks were going to grab next. No doubt the fear of sharks is rampant for beachgoers around the world. No one wants to go out for a relaxing swim only to see a great white staring them down. While people are pretty much more afraid of sharks than anything else in the world, sharks are responsible for about 82 confirmed unprovoked attacks annually. The annual global average for fatalities is about 4 per year. However, of course, they are still deadly. You don't want one coming after you. Great whites can be up to 20 feet long. Their jaws are incredibly strong, and their rows of serrated teeth are well suited to tearing flesh apart. But it's actually not really the shark you need to worry about. While great whites are the most famous, the bull shark is believed to be the most dangerous shark of all. In any case, if you see a shark, it's unlikely that you'll be able to swim away fast enough. Given that you would encounter a shark while underwater, you may not be sure how to react.
but the best thing to do is avoid panicking. If there is nowhere to go, don't splash around a lot or get panicked, because then you will really get the shark's attention. Most of the time they are just curious, but if you can, place your back against something solid. If there is anything around that you can use as a weapon, try to use it. If it comes close or tries to take an exploratory bite, then it is time to fight. Try going for its gills or its eyes using your hands like claws. Keep doing it until hopefully the shark lets you go. Gorilla. In 2017, 3 tourists in Rwanda were in for a big surprise when a big silverback gorilla shoved 2 of them onto the ground, causing them to tumble down a hill. The guide grabbed one of the men's arms and also fell to the ground, while the gorilla made a mock charge. It took the guide's level-headed interaction skills to calm it down. The tourists were there to watch the gorillas eat, but it appears that they weren't being safe enough, and probably did something the gorilla interpreted as threatening or annoying. Anyway, the gorilla went back to eating once it felt everyone's respect. Given their size, strength, and intelligence, gorillas are certainly a force to be reckoned with. Although they don't attack that many people per year, estimates usually say around 10 people get very injured. That is not because they can't. With their strong arms and sharp teeth, they could easily take on any human in their territory. They are over 6 feet tall and up to 350 pounds, but that doesn't stop them from being able to move at around 32 kilometers per hour. What to do if you encounter one? What is your best option if you ever run into a gorilla? For starters, you should definitely not try to evade the situation by running. In fact, you should try to act as submissive as possible, helping them to feel dominant and that you have no intention of challenging the silverback's status. I know it's hard, but stay calm. Gorillas actually see humans as one of them, so when they encounter one, they start to play a game of social hierarchy. Act like you're a gorilla. Don't look them in the eye and don't try to leave. Just look away at the ground, make yourself as small as possible, and look disinterested. Oh, this leaf is so pretty. Never show your teeth or raise your arms to look bigger, and definitely don't yell or thump your chest, even as a joke. If a gorilla decides to inspect you, just lay limp and you'll probably be okay. Lion. The people of the Tsavo region in Africa are well aware that the lion is the king of the jungle. While construction workers were building the Kenya-Uganda Railway in 1898, 2 lions began their campaign of terror on the crew, taking the lives of around 135 people, according to some estimates. It is said that the Tsavo man-eaters ate every last bit of their prey, down to the bones, without leaving a trace. A hunter came to track down the beasts and sold them to the Field Museum in Chicago, where you can go see the man-eaters for yourself. The Tsavo man-eaters were probably more inclined to eating humans than your average lions, due to the fact that it was a popular route at the time, and people who fell ill or were too weak to travel were left behind. Around 250 people die from lion attacks every year. I don't think I need to tell you to be careful around lions. They are huge cats and can run at up to 50 miles per hour. Their teeth can cut through flesh with ease. Plus, as you know, they run in packs. So if you ever find yourself facing a lion, you're likely facing a group of them. If you're traveling, hopefully you catch them while they're sleeping. They sleep up to 20 hours a day. Just like with gorillas, don't try to run away. If you turn your back on a lion, they will take that chance to spring on you, and you won't be able to run faster than them anyway. Usain Bolt, the world's fastest runner, can go 27 miles per hour, close to half of a lion's top speed. Instead, hold your ground, face them head on, put something over your head or wave your arms and walk backwards while making strange noises. This will make you appear intimidating and large. Venomous snakes. On a relaxing stroll back home from a party one evening, Kenyan woman Cheposite Adomo missed a pretty crucial feature of her environment, a 6.5-foot black mamba. Before she knew it, the snake had wrapped around her legs and taken a bite, then another and another. Luckily, a man was coming along the path wielding a machete, saving her from the other 2 mambas lurking just out of sight. More people came over and tied pieces of cloth around her limbs to help stop the spread of the venom. They were able to take her to the hospital, where she received the necessary anti-venom to survive. Black mambas are often considered some of the most dangerous, deadliest snakes in the world. About 1 million people are bitten by snakes every year in Africa alone, but only a fraction are thought to receive treatment. Huffington Post reports that globally, about 5 million people are bitten by snakes every year, with about 100,000 deaths and another 400,000 left permanently disabled or disfigured. Snakes can be found in most places around the world. The largest venomous snake is the king cobra, with enough venom to kill an Asian elephant. Measuring up to 18 feet long, this venomous snake commands respect. Sharp fangs can, upon incision, inject their venoms with incredibly powerful venom. The problem is that human encounters with snakes often happen because we don't see them in time. If you accidentally step on them, you might be in for a pretty nasty bite. What to do if you encounter one? First off, you don't want to encounter one. Most of the time, they will have the upper hand because you'll be right on top of them. One thing you can do is make some noise while walking around so that they know to move away and you don't end up stepping on them. Also, don't wear shorts in areas where there might be snakes. In long pants, their fangs are usually not able to make it all the way through. However, if you do get bitten, if you are not sure what kind of snake it was, get to the hospital immediately. Try not to move and stay calm because if you panic, the venom will travel through your body faster. You should treat it as an emergency. Leave the snake alone and apply pressure to the wounded area. Contrary to popular belief, you are not supposed to wash, suck, cut, or tourniquet the bite. Have you ever had an encounter with a snake? What happened? Let me know in the comments below and be sure to subscribe if you are new here. I wanted to give a big shout out to Sadiq Ali and Grand 101. Thanks so much for supporting this channel. Rhinos. While on safari at the Serengeti Park in northern Germany, onlookers watched in horror and awe as a giant 30-year-old rhino mashed his horn into the side of a car. This attack caused the car to flip over 3 times. While the car was heavily damaged, the park staff member locked inside left the vehicle relatively unscathed. No one is sure why the rhino was so heated. Rhinos are huge. White rhinos can weigh up to 5,100 pounds, even heavier than hippos, and they're faster than them as well. Rhinos can reach speeds of up to 35 miles per hour in just a few strides. It is extremely rare to be attacked by a rhino because they're extremely endangered, and only about 2 attacks happen per year. They are potentially dangerous, and if they feel threatened, they will prefer a fight. And you can see many compilations of rhino attacks, especially against vehicles, on YouTube. Levison Wood, an explorer and best-selling author who has visited over 100 countries, has had many face-to-face encounters with wild animals and remembers being charged by mother rhinos. I remember my heart hammering behind this tree and I couldn't see anyone, so there was this strangely lonely feeling. I waited there for about half an hour, and then finally I could hear a tracker calling us and we all kind of grouped together. My advice is you run if a rhino charges you. Make sure you're slightly fit and agile so you can. What to do if you encounter one? Like hippos, rhinos are inclined to charge at you in defense of their territory. When this happens, you should definitely try to run if you can. If there's a tree around, try to climb it or hide behind it. Some also suggest that you make strange noises like singing or chanting, as this might confuse the rhino and make it stop in its tracks. Crocodiles. Near the end of World War II, Allied troops launched an attack to retake Ramri from the Japanese. As British troops pushed forward, it forced enemy combatants into the thick swamps around Ramri Island. Unknown to these men, the mangrove swamps are crowded with saltwater crocodiles. Of the 1,000 men who entered, only 400 came out alive. The survivors recounted that dozens of crocodiles had appeared from nowhere and dragged the helpless men to their doom. This event, while largely regarded as a story, holds the record for most number of fatalities in a crocodile attack in the Guinness Book of World Records. So you should definitely avoid these reptiles at all costs. National Geographic reports they can be up to 23 feet long and weigh up to 2,200 pounds. Yearly, they kill around 1,000 people. When they're ready to strike, they will do so without hesitation, moving at up to 19 miles per hour. Most attacks occur near or in the water when people are fishing or swimming. Nile and saltwater crocodiles are extremely dangerous to people, and Australia's saltwater crocodile has been named the world's most aggressive crocodile. However, the Nile crocodile is responsible for more attacks on humans than any other crocodilian species. After lions and hippos, the Nile crocodile causes the highest numbers of wildlife-related fatalities in Africa. Recently, there has been an increase in crocodile attacks in the Solomon Islands. The government has declared them out of control and is even considering lifting a 30-year ban on exporting their skin to control the population. What to do if you encounter one? If you've got to walk through an area where crocodiles may be present, try not to make any sudden movements. Splashing in the water and making lots of noise will only attract their attention. Crocodiles can wait for days to pounce on a decently sized meal, but if you avoid certain obvious locations like popular watering holes, then you might make it in the clear. If you do see a crocodile, back away slowly, and if it runs after you on land, run in a straight line, don't zigzag, it won't help you. If you can't get away, aim for the eyes, and if it does grab you, don't stop fighting. Hippo. In the African country of Niger, students often take boats to cross the river and get to their school. But in 2014, while commuting to school in their boat across the Niger River in Niamey, they were attacked by a raging hippopotamus. 13 perished in the accident when the hippo managed to flip the boat into the water. This is one of the worst hippo attacks in recent history. In Senegal, the Washington Post has reported that they have a killer hippo problem. When fisherman Ali Fall goes to work, he says he knows he is tempting death. He's been attacked by a hippo several times. The last time it flipped over his boat and bit him on both legs. Other friends of his haven't been so lucky. You might not think it at first glance, but hippos are some of the deadliest creatures in the world, and certainly the deadliest large creatures on the Nile. Native mostly to sub-Saharan Africa, according to the BBC, these creatures take the lives of about 500 people per year in Africa. That's twice as many as lions, which is an estimated 250 annually. Although herbivores, they will often attack people who they take to be threats, especially if they have young hippos to protect. They are extremely aggressive and territorial and can weigh 3,500 to 9,920 pounds, according to the San Diego Zoo. With their gigantic jaws and sharp teeth, they can easily crunch up most animals, including crocodiles, in a single bite. Smithsonian reports that hippos have trampled or gored people who strayed too near, dragged them into lakes, tipped over their boats, and bitten off their heads. What to do if you encounter one? If you come across a hippo, try to hide somewhere up high. Given that they can run at about 19 miles per hour, outrunning them isn't much of an option. If there is a tree around, climbing it is your best bet, or at least try to hide. If you can't, try to find somewhere you can jump, because that's something they can't do. If you are in the water, I hate to say this, but you might be out of luck. Bears. We go to national parks to relax, hike, and enjoy the scenery, but occasionally things go haywire. In 2011, grizzly bears killed 2 people at Yellowstone National Park. In fact, some experts suspect that both attacks might be credited to the same bear. The first was attacked while hiking with his wife, who was able to survive by playing dead. The second man was mauled just a month later, allegedly while trying to cut logs. These fatal attacks were the first in 25 years for the park. Bears can, of course, be very deadly creatures. Grizzlies can go up to 35 miles per hour and at up to 600 pounds. That makes for a heck of a lot of momentum if you find one charging at you. This combination of size, speed, and strength makes it nothing for most bears to overpower others. And with their strong teeth, they can latch onto flesh with ease. That is why you should take care when you go hiking. If a mother bear is protecting her young, then she is much more inclined to charge you in order to protect her cub. What to do if you encounter one? Luckily, most bear encounters do not lead to aggressive actions, nor even attacks. They are just as startled as you are. When in a bear's area, travel in groups and speak loudly so that they stay away in the first place. Get to higher ground if possible to make yourself look bigger. Carry bear spray for protection. If the bear is staying still, then move sideways slowly, keeping your eye on it as you move. This will help prevent you from tripping. Again, don't run or turn your back to it. They will chase you. If the bear follows you as you step away, just hold your ground. The National Park Service says that if you are attacked by a black bear, to never play dead, but to fight back with whatever you have. With brown bears and grizzlies, play dead.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for extra content you might have missed.
Scolopendra Centipede. Scolopendra centipedes are known to be particularly ferocious. They can be over 1 foot long and have a set of very powerful fangs known as forcipules. Some cave-dwelling Scolopendra species have developed into major predators of roosting bats. Yes, flying bats lurking in caves are apparently no match for this terrorizing centipede. The insects scuttle across the top of the caves and then anchor some of their legs into the ceiling. These guys are thick and muscular, and all they have to do is swing the other half of their body down into position and grab a bat that is maybe twice as big as they are as they fly in and out of the cave. Once their prey is subdued by the toxin, the centipede coils around, tearing off pieces of bat flesh. Sorry, TMI. As if that weren't impressive enough, Scolopendra centipedes also go after snakes, including the highly venomous Indian coral snake. They have also been seen eating rats, lizards, frogs, pretty much whatever it can get its forcipules on. Cassowary. Cassowaries are some of the biggest and heaviest birds in the animal kingdom, quite similar to emus. These monstrous birds can't fly, but they can certainly kill. They can run at an astounding 30 miles per hour, grow to weigh over 130 pounds, and have a claw on each foot that looks like something better suited to a velociraptor. They are closely related to the extinct terror bird, whose name is self-explanatory. Native to Australia and Papua New Guinea, typically these birds are shy and hide deep in the forest. They are good swimmers and can also jump about 5 feet. But these flightless birds can not only be hostile, but dangerous to the unsuspecting. They are territorial, and so you must keep an eye out when they are held in captivity especially. They can be very dangerous to humans and domestic animals since they use their 5-inch claw to go right for your soft organs and cause severe bleeding. Nothing proves how menacing a cassowary can be than an incident in northern Florida in 2019. A man by the name of Marvin Hajos was attacked by his very own cassowary that he had raised as a chick. The initial report suggests that Marvin fell to the ground where he lay helpless as the cassowary assaulted him. Marvin was severely clawed by the cassowary's sharp, knife-like nail and rushed to a nearby hospital after the incident, but eventually succumbed to the wounds inflicted upon him by the murderous bird. Guinness World Records and the San Diego Zoo call cassowaries the world's most dangerous bird. Of course, cassowaries are not the only vindictive feathered animals to besiege humanity. Also in Australia, magpies have been a menace for years, especially to cyclists. And in the UK and elsewhere, seagulls have no fear, and homeowners have had to shield themselves with umbrellas. So, should we be afraid? I think in this case, a little fear and respect is good for you. Praying mantis. Most of us know the praying mantis as the kung fu master of the insect world. Well, you may be surprised by how alarmingly true the title is. Praying mantises have the kung fu skills to take down prey double their size, defeating the world's most venomous and dangerous critters with startling ease. But don't worry, they aren't dangerous to humans, but they are deadly to grasshoppers, crickets, spiders, hummingbirds, small turtles, and even snakes. Yes, snakes. How the heck does that happen? Praying mantises use their raptor-like front legs to capture and grasp animals. So what happens when a praying mantis goes up against a snake? Surprise, surprise, the wily snake ends up in the mantis's paws. Not what you expected, right? But baby snakes are also fair game, and the mantis is strong enough to grasp the snake's head to chow down. There are not many insects that can wrangle a snake with their bare hands, so to speak, and happily snack away at it as if it were a corn on the cob. Who said snakes were on the top of the food chain? For such a scrawny-looking insect, the praying mantis has one big appetite. There are even at least 12 different species that are known for eating small birds, especially hummingbirds, grabbing them out of the sky as they get too close to flowers or bird feeders. They have a 78% success rate for killing and eating birds and will also not hesitate to go after the occasional bat. Now that's one savage mantis. And now for number 7. But first, be sure to let me know which one surprises you the most in the comments below. And remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Cone snails. While on land, snails are sluggish and slimy, snails in the sea are something else. There are over 40,000 species of snails on planet Earth. And while your garden variety snail may not be dangerous, there are snails lurking in the depths of the ocean with enough venom to take out a fully grown human. These little guys are sneaky and deadly. Their shells are highly prized by divers and beachcombers, but if you disturb or frighten the wrong snail, you could die a quick death and never even know what hit you. If you had to guess who would win in a fight between a fish and a snail, who would you pick? Probably the fish, but that's only because you haven't met the cone snail. National Geographic managed to catch an incident in the waters of Southeast Asia of a cone snail attacking a full-size fish. These snails are predatory and use a sophisticated detection system to find prey. Not only does the cone snail appear to hunt the fish, but once the fish is cornered, the snail then uses a special modified tooth, or sharp proboscis, as a harpoon, where it stabs the fish, releasing its venom, and then quickly pulls the fish back towards it with the barb at the end. Once the fish is completely paralyzed, it will slurp the entire fish straight into its gooey mouthhole. A few microliters of cone snail toxin is powerful enough to kill 10 people. Its harpoon can pierce gloves and diving suits, and as it injects you, it also releases pain-killing properties, so you might not even feel it. Also, there is no anti-venom. Koalas. We have all heard the rumors, but nobody wants to believe it. Nobody wants to admit that the adorable koala bear could be such a bully. It's too darn cute. And yet there are almost countless incidents in Australia of koalas attacking dogs and people with absolutely no mercy. Like in December of 2014, when a woman in South Australia ended up being bitten by a ferocious koala bear while trying to protect her dogs. everybody got out of the situation alive. But that just goes to show how tough these critters can be. Taking on a pair of dogs and a human at the same time? Nature is scary, and cuteness is not really a defense mechanism, so the koala has to do something. While an aggressive confrontation with a koala may earn you a trip to the hospital and a few stitches, what happens when a koala goes after one of its own? Koala on koala crime. These snuggly tree-dwelling animals have a mean streak a mile long. They are very territorial and live in complex social groups. Intelligent, territorial animals can be nice, but also can get cranky. There is no better example of rude koalas than a 2019 incident when a male koala straight up attacked a female in her own tree. That's like someone walking into your house and pulling you out by the hair, kicking and screaming. And that's exactly what happened to the unfortunate lady koala. Everyone was okay in the end, but let this be a lesson to you. Cute does not always mean nice. Beaver. In the country of Belarus, located between Russia and Poland, they have something of a beaver problem. Beavers almost went extinct in Europe due to poaching and excessive hunting, but in the past decade, they have been making a big comeback. And yes, you've guessed it, they came back with a vengeance. Beaver attacks are very uncommon, but there have been more and more reports as people enter their habitat and disturb them. In 2013, as a fisherman drove along towards the Belarus capital city of Minsk with a few friends, he spotted a beaver on the side of the road. Taking it upon himself to get a selfie with the brown lumber-chopping critter, the fisherman got a little too close for his own good. He actually tried to pick up the beaver, and in response, the beaver attacked. I mean, wouldn't you? That's kind of scary. The beaver's attack was so vicious and unrelenting that it cut the fisherman's femoral artery, and the man bled out and was later pronounced dead at the hospital. In any case, the next time you think about grabbing a wild animal for a selfie, please don't. In 2018, a man and his 7-year-old daughter were kayaking in Pennsylvania when their kayak was attacked by a large beaver. It grabbed onto the kayak with its teeth and kept trying to get in, so the man hit it with his paddle. Then it went after his daughter, so they paddled toward land and got out, where the beaver continued to attack them. The man said he threw rocks, punched and kicked, trying to get away from it. His daughter was screaming. It was like a horror movie. He finally hit it repeatedly over the head with a big stick until it died. It was determined that the beaver was suffering from rabies, the first rabid beaver ever reported in the county. Leopard seal. Seals are often referred to as the dogs of the sea, and in a lot of ways this is true. But did you know that these slippery underwater animals are actually sadists? Leopard seals are some of the most brutal animals on the planet, killing not only to eat, but also for fun. And while they may look lazy and nonchalant, relaxing and patting their bellies on shore, they are 1,300 pounds of pure mayhem underwater. In July of 2003, a British marine biologist working in Antarctica was suddenly attacked by a leopard seal while snorkeling. The seal struck Kirsty Brown and dragged her almost 200 feet deep in the icy water. The other scientists saw what had happened and attempted to rescue her, but it was too late. She was an experienced diver, but no match for the powerful seal. They are highly inquisitive, but not normally aggressive. Divers have gone into the water with seals for over 30 years with the British Antarctic Survey, and they said they have never had anything like this happen. Leopard seals are solitary creatures with sharp canines and large heads. For some, the incident was no surprise. Scientists have documented leopard seals playing with their food, terrorizing their victims, mostly penguins, before feasting on them, or not. Sometimes they're just not hungry and hunt for fun. Like any wild animal, you should never pet or feed seals, as they can bite and pass on infectious diseases. Scorpion-eating shrew. When you think of the deadliest animals, I doubt that a shrew comes to mind. In case you're not sure what they are, they look kind of like mice but are not rodents. They have their own family and are a small insectivorous mammal. Like the mantis, they are not dangerous to us, but they are vicious predators if you're an insect. Some species of shrew are even venomous. Their venom is potent enough to kill 200 mice. Nothing demonstrates the courage of a shrew more than an incident caught on video of a shrew going toe-to-toe with a deadly scorpion. The cannibal scorpion had just finished slaying another scorpion and was about to enjoy a nice meal when the shrew came in to attack the victor. And although the scorpion's stinger could have easily done away with the dastardly shrew, it was simply too quick. In mere seconds, the shrew had ducked, dodged, and then disabled the scorpion with a series of lightning-fast bites. And this isn't the only case of a shrew taking on a tough opponent. The internet is crawling with video accounts of these tiny mammals attacking scorpions, mice, and even snakes. They've even been known to ambush fish, since some species can swim and walk on water. Who knew such a small creature could be so fearless and powerful? Giraffe. South Africa is known for its wildlife, both big and small. It's also famous for great cycling. Who would have thought that this would be a deadly combination? Neither did a man in 2015 when he left the Thaba Monate Lodge in the Limpopo province to go for a leisurely bike ride. But he was found later that afternoon by some other guests staying at the lodge. According to local authorities, the 45-year-old man had been cycling through giraffe territory. The scene of the crime appeared to suggest that he had been attacked, trampled, and ultimately killed by one of the long-necked residents. This was not the first time someone was attacked by a giraffe. Back in 2013, there was a situation caught on tape in which a pair of cyclists were attacked by a rogue giraffe in one of Pretoria's nature reserves. The video clearly shows the giraffe on a mad rampage. It managed to trample one of the men's bicycles and chase them off before finally calming down and going away. There must be something about bicycles that really makes giraffes nervous, and while they might usually run away from a fight, they will not hesitate to give their enemy a swift kick to cause serious damage. Hungry hippo. Hippos may look like gentle giants, but think again. Hippopotamuses are the deadliest creatures in all of Africa, killing more people than any other wild animal. And they are far from calm, known more for being aggressive, territorial, and using their enormous sharp teeth to get rid of threats. They also have no trouble running on land faster than 20 miles per hour. Getting mauled by a hippo is like being thrashed around in the jaws of a giant rabid dog with 20-inch teeth. Hippos will terrorize entire villages, sink fishing boats, and trample and maul whoever or whatever they feel gets too close. This includes people, crocodiles, sharks, lions, each other, you name it. In 2009, a crocodile in Tanzania got too close to hippos bathing in the river. It suddenly panicked and ended up running across the backs of the hippos. Bad decision. It got stuck in a labyrinth of hippos that started to encircle the croc and take turns biting it. It didn't stand a chance. In another sad story, a South African farmer named Marius Els had a pet hippo named Humphrey. He had raised the hippo almost from birth. He was known to ride it through the river like a fat pink horse, hand feed it apples, and even swim with the aquatic giant. He was proud of his relationship with Humphrey and had boasted publicly that Humphrey would never hurt anyone. Well, sad to say, the hippo-loving farmer was wrong. One Saturday evening in 2011, an ambulance was called to Marius Els' farm. Humphrey the hippo had taken several bites of his lifelong friend and forced him underwater for an undetermined period of time. For whatever reason, the friendship turned deadly. Thanks for watching! Which one did you think was the most shocking? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye!